Weatherbot 95 is tinkering with his systems again, and the rebuilt Freeman Street Bridge looks a bit different than the last one. I'm your host. You can call me the Lone Transmitter, and coming to you live from Yellowbrook City, you're listening to Wasteland Free Radio. Well, Radlanders, it didn't take long, but the Freeman Street Bridge is already covered in graffiti, and it's only been a few weeks. Apparently, local teenager Matty Harbinger and his band of rad punks thought it would be funny to paint the word... I can't even say it, but it starts with a Z. Anyway, the bridge is totally fine otherwise, but can you believe the nerve of these kids? That's like spray painting radiation leak at a nuclear reactor. Okay, well, not spray painting, but like shouting, you know what I mean. But don't worry, local authorities have already issued a statement promising they're sending someone to arrest the little felons. Of course, I don't think they should be arrested. They are just kids after all. My only real question here is, where are the rad punks getting their spray paint? Max usually gets me spray paint. It's not a big deal, but it is kind of expensive. Like, who's their spray paint guy? And is he taking new customers? Anyway, I am relieved that for most people, life in Yellowbrook City has pretty much returned to normal, and my parents, well, my dad at least, finally went home. You might remember my dad and my stepmom were visiting for the Sky Festival. Well, they were only supposed to be here for a few days. She wanted to take some more soil samples up by the old water park, and Dad wanted a tour of both Dynamo Science Labs and Danny Sixfinger's old glove factory. But that place is huge, and I've only been inside a little tiny piece of it. Not to mention, I just know there's something alive in there lurking in the dark. I've just never run into it. But as far as Dynamo Science Labs goes, they really don't do public tours. Honestly, it was a bit of a surprise that they let me inside to see the space egg. But Weatherbot 95 pulled some strings, and Dad got an up-close look at Dynamo's water treatment plant, their decontamination stations, and a sneak peek at some of the science projects for the upcoming science fair. Dad even shook the many hands of Dr. Dynamo himself. And while Dad was on his tour, my stepmom and I checked out that abandoned water park. She said there was a variety of fungus and soil samples that she was looking for, and apparently old tourist attractions are where it's at. So I jumped at the chance to head back up there anyway and see what I could find. The way I heard it, people used to travel from hundreds of miles away to visit these water parks and bathe together. Imagine having so much fresh, clean water, you could just bathe in it. Wild. But after having a pretty good look at the place, I kinda lost track of my stepmom for a minute. It's not a big deal, she's an adult and she's a rad witch, she knows her way around. But when I found her, she was walking away from these two guys in matching jackets. She saw me, stopped, and gave me a thumbs up, and then she flashed out of sight. I had no idea what was going on. So I went home and did some research, and it took me a little while, but then I remembered where I'd seen her face before they got married. Turns out, her name isn't Diane at all, but she's actually known as the Duchess. Famed criminal mastermind and con artist, mistress of disguise and dialogue, the Duchess. Of course, now I need to know why the Duchess decided to seduce somebody like my dad, but I guess it's not that weird. So my stepmom is a con artist, and I had to break the news to my dad. And he wasn't fazed at all, but he just kind of kept talking about how much fun he had at Dynamo, and then he went home. And just in time, he wants to get home before locust season starts. It should be a good harvest this year. But he didn't seem fazed at all that his wife just disappeared after talking to two strangers and giving me a thumbs up. Like, I'm supposed to know what that means. Anyway, I think my dad is home now. I think he's safe. It's fine. I'm afraid he did something to my studio while I was gone. I'm really afraid he recorded something and broadcast something, but so far it looks like nothing has been touched. Believe me, the last thing the world needs right now is my dad having his own radio show. Nobody wants that, trust me. Someone has been posting flyers around town looking for yet another lost kidney. Perhaps it was stolen or borrowed, or maybe they sold their kidney and they would like it back. Either way, it sounds like they need to pay a visit to Toxic Tina's Discount Medical Store. Do you need a new liver? How about a gently used small intestine? Well, at Toxic Tina's, you can find small, large, and extra large intestines at discounted rates, guaranteed. Buy them new or used. All of Tina's discount organs come with her patented half-lifetime guarantee. No questions asked. She's not a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon. You'll need to find someone else to do the actual transplant. But for a limited time, Tina is willing to give it a shot and provide an organ installation for a modest fee. So don't wait any longer. Come down to Toxic Tina's Discount Medical Store, where kidneys are accepted just like cash. Well, the Grand Reverend Supreme, who runs our local Doomsday Country Club, whatever, he's invited me to another one of his ice cream socials. You know, the ones without real ice cream. I know it doesn't sound all that bad, but keep in mind, the Grand Reverend throws these parties inside an old mannequin factory, and that doesn't make things weird at all. But I already went to one of his ice cream socials, and he just stood there for a while and rambled about the Space King for a couple of minutes. As expected. He told us the Space King was going to reveal to him the future date of the apocalypse. As I've said, my real issue is that the world has already ended 30 times over, and I'm not really sure what the Grand Reverend Supreme is playing at. But I've got to hand it to him, he kind of has a following, so what can I say? The Space King works in mysterious and absurd ways. I'm pretty sure he listens to the show, and he knows I don't take him all that seriously. But let's see what this invite says. Join me, my children, as I reveal the secret of the Space King and feast on his delicious bounty. Ew, what? Okay. I've discovered the pleasure of 1,000 delights. What am I reading? Oh, and it's chocolate chip cookie dough. Okay. He then says, please bring your own spoon. I guess I'll go. But I am detecting a few holes in his story here. For example, how can his ice cream be the Space King's bounty if the courier is bringing him, not milk-based ingredients for his ice cream? Unless, wait, you don't think the courier is actually the Space King, do you? No, that's ridiculous. Well, after being stuck inside from the fallout and spending a few weeks around my parents, I was feeling pretty restless. It's been a while since I went outside the protective dome, so I did. I went out and I explored a little bit. I thought I'd head south, maybe get warmed up and see what else is out there. I packed some SPF 250 and 5 pucks of evaporated coffee, and enough of Toxic Tina's Roach Be Gone to keep me safe. I don't know if it works, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Oh right, roaches. I guess they don't exist everywhere. Well, you know how people used to say cockroaches can totally survive an apocalypse? Well, it turns out they can. And they did. But they didn't just survive. These horrible little creatures absolutely thrived during the years after the Great Devastation. Yeah. While humanity was struggling to rebuild, roaches went through some crazy accelerated version of evolution, and they mated with other insects that also happened to survive and, Now we've got a couple dozen hybrids that I just don't care to ever see again. Now, roach wasp sightings are rare up here. I've only seen one of these things, and I'd like to keep it that way. But everything you've heard about them is true. Just imagine a cockroach had a baby with a murder hornet. And it wasn't all that big, maybe 10 or 15 inches long. But whenever travelers come to town, I hear stories. And I guess they can get a lot bigger and a lot smarter. So I always drink my Roach Be Gone. I don't know what toxic Tina puts in it, but she's never actually poisoned anyone, despite the name. It tastes pretty good. It's a little aggressively carbonated for me, but this is the Radlands, and I'm not about to get picky about my seltzer. But ever since I started drinking it, I haven't seen a single roach wasp, and I'm happy to keep it that way. So, out in the Radlands, magnetic north has been shifting at random ever since the Great Devastation. Weatherbot 95 has been looking into it for a while, but compasses are basically useless out there. But you know, I'm pretty well traveled, and I've gotten pretty good at determining where I am based on the position of the sun or the moon. Now, granted, the moon is in a weird place right now, and it's cloudy, so I did get lost, and I didn't find any good salvage or discover any towns or trade routes. So I turned around. So on my way back to Yellowbrook City, I was somewhere around the robot graveyard, maybe a day or so away, and I came across some people. Now, usually when you meet a stranger in the Radlands, they actually are safe. Most of us are just trying to mind our own business, maybe scavenge or forage, and make it home safely to our little rad tots. But sometimes they are flat out dangerous. But we all know it's dangerous to travel the Radlands. You need to know where you're going and have plenty of supplies, and I'm usually pretty prepared. You don't survive this long in the Radlands without kind of having your shakes together. And I've seen all sorts of things out there. Roach wasps, war parties, cannibals. I even came across a traveling circus a couple of years ago. Now this was way before I moved up to Yellowbrook City, and I've got to say I wasn't all that impressed, though the bearded children were a pretty cool touch. I didn't see the circus so I could stare and gawk at these people. Really, I just wanted to see what it was about. I hung out with them for a while afterwards. They're all pretty cool, and they're just trying to make their way in the Radlands, and as far as my interactions with people go out there, the circus actually felt pretty safe. But it doesn't really matter how safe I want to be, because sometimes my curiosity gets the best of me anyway. On this last trip, I came across a camp. Like a mobile camp, with tents, horses, and 2 campfires. Yeah, they had a campfire going at night. That's like asking to get robbed, kidnapped, or eaten alive, or worse. So that tells me one of 2 things. One is that they're either stupid and careless, and have no idea how to survive in the Radlands, or they know exactly what they're doing, and they just aren't worried about it. And that worries me. I tried to listen in on their conversation, but I couldn't hear anything. And my field recorder couldn't pick anything up either. So I don't really know what to make of these people. Having campfires out at night is kind of a red flag for me to stay away. They could be a war party. I know the war is in the west and it shouldn't be out this way, but you never know. And if I'm being honest, I am just way too much of a wimp to try to find out. Oh, it sounds like Weatherbot 95 is back. Oh wow, it sounds like he's in a hurry. Hey man, what's up?
Please, can you take this piece of adhesive off of my back? It is uncomfortable, and I cannot reach it with my tiny arms.
Oh man, 95, who did this to you? Come here, I've got it.
I encountered a band of road warriors outside of town, near the high school gymnasium. Visual scanning confirmed it was Rough Roxanne. I don't think she recalls the aid and assistance I rendered at last year's costume party.
Rough Roxanne, huh? I bet it's just another one of those anti-decontamination pamphlets. I'm just gonna throw it out. Hang on.
Be careful not to scuff my finish.
There we go. So what happened? Did Rough Roxanne, threaten to, what was it, shake your screws loose again?
That was no idle threat, my friend. Wink. Wink.
Ew, did you just try to wink at me?
I don't know what came over me.
Well, this sheet of paper is a note, but it's a note from me. It says, meet me at Apocalypse WoW, Juice Bar and Human Arcade, 10 days from now. Seriously yours, Rough Roxanne.
Be careful, my friend. She might turn out to be a cannibal, too.
They always do turn out to be cannibals, don't they? But no, I don't think it's that.
Wishful thinking, perhaps? Wink.
Ew, did you just wink again?
It is a part of my new human interaction protocol. But I just updated my firmware, and I am encountering a few errors in my new program. May I run a diagnostic?
Sure, go ahead.
Processing. Stand by. Good morning, how are you? Fine? Error.
Yeah, it needs a little work.
Say hi to your mother for me. Good morning. How are you? It's wonderful weather we are having this apocalypse, isn't it, puny human? How are you?
Yeah, I think you might want to recheck your firmware.
Good morning, how are you? Fine.
This seems a little outdated.
Apologies. That firmware update took a lot out of me. I will go plug in.
Alright, man. Go get some juice. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so it looks like I'm meeting up with Rough Roxanne at Apocalypse WoW, Juice Bar and Human Arcade. They do sponsor the show from time to time. It's a pretty cool place. Their iridescent liquid is to die for. I've only got a couple of spare bits, though. Well, maybe I'll bring something to barter with instead. Okay, the Retro Resequencer has been hard at work churning out another song from Before the Great Devastation. So this is Seas Atlantis with their song, Cosmos. I'm the Lone Transmitter, and you've been listening to Wasteland Free Radio.
Messages in the sky.
Wasteland Free Radio is written and produced by J.S. Pitcher, and if you enjoy our intro, background, and outro music, that is from 11D7. You can find them at 11d7isalive.com. Follow them on Instagram at 11d7isalive, and please check out their Bandcamp and their Spotify. Links in the show notes. Today's retro resequencer was Seas Atlantis with their song Cosmos. You can find more about them on their Instagram at Seas Atlantis, all one word. Also, please check them out on Bandcamp and Spotify as well. If you like the show, please leave us a review or a rating on whatever podcast catcher you're using. Is that the word? I think that's the word. You can also just tell a friend. I know everyone has 10,000 podcasts they listen to. Thank you for choosing this one out of all of them to listen to. I really do appreciate it. It's pretty cool. You can send us an email at wastelandfreeradio@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM on Instagram. We do check that as well. And finally, if you play in a band or you are an independent musician yourself and you would like your music featured on this show, please send us an email at wastelandfreeradio@gmail.com with a link to where we can find it. We would love to work with you. We love working with independent artists. That's kind of why we're here. Well, I guess we're also kind of here to tell, funny apocalypse stories, but you know what I mean. That's it for this episode, and remember, just because the world ended once doesn't mean it won't happen again. Backup unit the other day, and I found some old recordings from before my time at Wasteland Free Radio. I hope you enjoyed this show.
The millions wares in sundry. Do you need supplies?
But for a limited time, Tina is willing to give it a shot and provide an organ installation for a modest fee. So don't wait any longer. Come on down.
You believe I had an authentic Super Game Bot now? The ultimate gaming machine! I got a couple of games, but I wish I had a copy of Super Game 2.
I'm the Lone Transmitter, and you've been listening to the Wasteland Free Radio Midnight Broadcast.